embedded into the architecture of the solar system itself. That's pretty intense, and it makes one wonder how it got there. Next, I'm going to turn to a potential answer. I think it is without a doubt the answer, and I'll expound upon that a little later in this video. But it comes from an article. The article I'm going to show you comes from grahamhancock.com. I'll provide a link below. The article was written by Christopher Knight and Alan Butler. So here's the article on grahamhancock.com. It was written by Christopher Knight and Alan Butler. The article was written in January of 2010, and the article is entitled, "Was Our Solar System Designed to Produce Humans?" The article states, "It's a very strange quirk of fate indeed that the disk of the moon should seem, from an earthly perspective, to be exactly the same size as the sun. Whilst we casually take it for granted that the two main bodies seen in Earth's skies look the same size, it is actually something of a miracle. The odds against this optical illusion happening at all are simply huge. The magic of the moon's movements above our heads goes to even more astonishing levels. By some absolutely incomprehensible quirk of nature, the moon also manages to very precisely imitate the movements of the sun. It imitates the perceived annual movements of the sun each month. But our biggest personal challenge has been to face up to the consequences of our own findings, because they have brought us to the point where we have found compelling evidence that our planet and its environment have been carefully designed for us. Stranger still, there appears to be a message built into the very fabric of the solar system. We were troubled because, despite one of us being an agnostic and the other an atheist, we could not escape the conclusion that we were looking at a message from what we called the UCA, or the Unknown Creative Agency, that had designed our solar system and all life on Earth." So we have the moon, from the perspective of the Earth, appears to be the same size as the sun. When you look up at the sky, the moon and the sun appear to be exactly the same size. Obviously they're not the same size. They appear that way because of their relative distance. But the odds of them appearing from the Earth to be the same size are astronomical. It's an incredible rarity that this would actually happen. When you add in the fact that the moon mimics the movements of the sun every month, the odds of these two factors combined happening naturally are billions and billions to one. It appears that the Earth-Moon-Sun system was arranged. Now, obviously, the next question is, who arranged it that way? A lot of people would immediately say God did it. I'm not denying that as a potential answer. I tend to go more for a simpler answer, is that there's a super high civilization that had that capacity to do that. There's something called the Kardashev scale, where our thinkers have hypothesized about levels of civilization and how powerful they could potentially get. They put us on a type 0. We're nothing. Type 1 has the capacity to marshal all of the energy of a planet. I think a type 2 has the capacity to marshal all of the energy of a solar system. Type 3 has the capacity to marshal the entire forces of a galaxy. Type 4 can marshal all of the forces and power of the universe. And a type 5 would actually be able to marshal all the power and energy of multiple universes. So we have all these different levels of potential civilization that our thinkers have thought of, hypothesized. It's my contention that some type of super high civilization that has the capacity to move planets actually arranged our solar system that way. I'd like to take a look at a couple of more videos right now that'll expound upon this. First, I'd like to take a look at our Earth and the tectonic plates and the movements. This next video is going to start about, I believe, 500 million years ago, and it's going to end right about, I think it's about 200 million years ago. You'll see it'll say it on the video. This is allegedly Earth 500 million years ago, and then up to 200 million years ago, essentially what the continents looked like, etc., etc. I stop it at 200 million years ago because that's where Pangaea is. Pangaea was a supercontinent on Earth about 200 million years ago, where Earth had just one continent and the rest of the Earth was water. I just want you to take a look at this video real quick, and then I will go into my own personal analysis on this and how this all fits together with the information that I have shown you earlier in this video. So let's take a look at that real quick. Right at the end of that video, it was just about 200 million years ago, that's right at the boundary of what's called the Permian age and the Triassic age. We have all the land masses coming together solidly for the first time. That continent that was called Pangaea. I have known intuitively for years that there was something special about Pangaea. And I have felt that essentially, in a previous video, I'm going to post a link to it below, we talked about the exploding planet hypothesis, and that the asteroid belt, where the asteroid belt is between Mars and Jupiter, used to be a planet that exploded. I believe that when that planet exploded, a massive piece of that planet still survived, and that planet is Earth. I believe that our planet is a smaller piece of that large planet that existed between Mars and Jupiter, the asteroid belt. And I have felt that Pangaea is evidence of that. Essentially, picture this: that planet smashes apart, it goes shooting off. Boom! What eventually would become Earth goes shooting off. Now, as its velocity takes it away, what you would have is essentially all the mass congealing on one side, all the liquid congealing on the other side. That's exactly what we see 200 million years ago with Pangaea and then a world ocean. We see all the mass on one side, all the liquid on the other side. Now, in creating this video, I did a little bit of research. I found that video, and I also found more evidence that seems to support my contention. That evidence is that just before Pangaea came to be, that supercontinent, there's something called the Permian extinction. The Permian extinction was the largest extinction our planet has ever seen. Again, it's my contention that large extinction that we had, the largest extinction ever, was actually on the planet between Mars and Jupiter, and that it was the destruction of that planet that caused that extinction. Here's a little bits of information about the Permian extinction. I'm going to share that with you right now from an article. The Permian-Triassic extinction event, colloquially known as the Great Dying, the end Permian extinction or the Great Permian extinction, occurred about 252 million years ago. It is the Earth's most severe known extinction event, with up to 96% of all marine species and 70% of all terrestrial vertebrate species becoming extinct. Finally, I'd like to look at a bit of recent news that just fits in really well with everything and gives credence to this entire hypothesis that I have presented in this documentary. Some of you may be familiar with Oumuamua. Oumuamua was an object. It was the first object in recorded human history that we've seen come from outside of the solar system, from deep interstellar space and into our solar system. This object, Oumuamua, had characteristics that scientists have never seen before. I'll let Dr. Abraham Loeb, he's also known as Avi, explain it in an interview that he did with John Michael Gaudier on the radio program Event Horizon. So let's listen in. Dr. Abraham, or Avi Loeb, is the Frank B. Baird Jr. Professor of Science at Harvard University. Dr. Loeb has authored over 700 papers and is the founding director of Harvard's Black Hole Initiative. He serves on the advisory committee for the Breakthrough Starshot Initiative. And in 2012, Time magazine selected Dr. Loeb as one of the 25 most influential people in space.
Say in the paper that the Oumuamua occupies a very strange frame of reference, or at least a unique frame of reference within the galaxy. What do you mean by that?
Well, it so happens that the object started at rest relative to the so-called local standard of rest, which is the frame of reference obtained by averaging the motion of all the stars in the vicinity of the sun. So stars are moving relative to each other, and if you take the average of all these motions in the neighborhood of the sun, you get to the local standard of rest. And that's the galactic frame of reference, so to speak. And it so happens that Oumuamua was at rest in that frame. only 1 in 500 stars are so slow as Oumuamua was before it entered the solar system. And so one way to think of it is that Oumuamua resembled a buoy on the surface of an ocean that sits still on the surface until a boat comes over and kicks it. And so the solar system bumped into Oumuamua just like a boat bumps into a buoy on the surface of an ocean. And the relative speed between Oumuamua and us is simply a result of us moving towards it. This is rather peculiar because if it originated from planetary systems like the solar system, then you would expect it to inherit the motion of the parent star and move at about 20 kilometers per second relative to the local standard of rest. We don't see that. It seems to be associated with this preferred frame of reference. And one possible interpretation is that there is a network of such objects in the galactic frame, and they serve as some posts, road posts, and stars run into them every now and then, like the solar system ran into Oumuamua. Of course, we don't really know, and we have to wait for the second object to be discovered. If the second one is also at that frame of reference, it would make the likelihood of a random event of this type to be 1 over 500 squared, extremely small probability, almost 1 in a million. And so I would say that we just have to wait, and if there is another one coming at the same speed from the same direction, it would look really peculiar.
It would indeed. Now, what natural process could produce this? Would this, if it is natural that produces frame of reference, would that simply indicate that Oumuamua has just been out circling the galaxy for a very, very long time?
No, because there is no process that can slow down. We refer to the cigar-shaped object. However, I would find the pancake-shaped configuration much more likely, because it's quite likely that this object suffered a lot of kicks along its lengthy journey. And so that's interesting by itself, that based on its tumbling motion, if you assume that it's in the most excited state because of the many kicks that it suffered, then it should be a pancake-like geometry, very extreme shape, without any reference to the possibility that it's a sail. That already sounds very exotic.
Now, this very fast tumbling, this rotation that it exhibits, how does this relate to the local standard of rest, that it seems to be sitting there in one aspect, but it seems to be highly excited in another? How do those two relate?
Well, the motion relative to the local standard of rest is of the object as a whole.
Look, I'd like to summarize everything now. It appears that I'm going to provide links for everything down below so you can do further research on my YouTube videos and the research of others. It appears that 2 planets have exploded in our solar system in the ancient past. I propose that the planet that was between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter is now the asteroid belt. One remnant of that planet flew off and ultimately became the Earth. Some unknown creative agency, as Knight and Butler term it, rearranged the solar system. Imagine after 2, even 1 exploded planet, the solar system would be chaotic. I believe someone came in and actually rearranged our solar system, and when they did so, they arranged it with sacred numbers that arise out of life itself in the universe. I think they did that to give us a message in a bottle through time. That message in the bottle is encoded into the architecture of the solar system itself. That message not only tells us that civilization has destroyed itself in the past, but that civilization also survives, and that there is some high civilization that came in and rearranged that solar system. And they rearranged that solar system in a very specific way so that at this time When we have this capacity, we'll be able to decipher the message. 2 planets exploded in the past. They say a third time's a charm. Maybe this is our third chance and maybe our last chance. Let's hope that we can take this message that has been sent, a message in a bottle to us through time, understand it, and change our behavior and the way we relate to life and the universe and everything in a more positive manner, and really push forward as a species collectively to go out into the universe in peace and really get an understanding of who we are, what the universe is about, and our schema in the whole grand scheme of things. Thank you for listening, and make sure click on those links down below, get more information if you're interested. Thank you.